Hello to all you beautiful people of the internet. My name is Entertainment Talker, and this will be the last video of the year until, next year, January. If you hear me take a break in some time, I'm just drinking a lovely cold can of Pepsi Max, hashtag not sponsored. I thought today I'd give you a TV show pitch idea I've got. It's my first TV show idea. It's a post-apocalyptic drama called Left Alive. I know people are like, oh, why is it always zombies and horror? Like, in my opinion, zombies are cool. There's lots of cool ways you can invent them. But this will be like the normal zombies. There won't be like big ones. So, the idea of the show is a 3-season show. First season will have 6 episodes and the rest will have 8. It'll follow 3 siblings who are thrust into a post-apocalyptic world while also facing the horrors of the living as well, as usual. So every season there will be a villain or villains, depending on how many there deserves to be. I mainly want to make this not just to show people, some idea I have, or I know it's a bit of a push, potentially a company looking at this think, maybe we can pick that up. But I'm also making this for Magnus Robert, shout out to him, check him out down below. See what he thinks of it. If he thinks it's good, it's bad, any improvements, any questions that you might have, let me know. So yeah, let's get started. So I just looked back and I realised it's not 6 episodes in the beginning and 8 for the rest of them. They're actually a different amount of episodes, so I apologise for getting that wrong. But yeah, season 1 will have 9 episodes. Season 1 will begin with Megan and her brothers Joshua and Elijah living an awful life with their abusive parents. But when the apocalypse happens, they must rely on them, even if it means getting hurt. So yeah, it'll already get dark straight from the beginning. So we're just going to go through every episode one by one, and then we'll move on to season 2, then we'll go over to season 3. And yeah, let's get into it. So, episode 1 is titled Pain. And the synopsis of this title is, for the premiere, Megan, Joshua and Elijah navigate life under their parents' oppressive rule. As news of a deadly infection spreads, the family is forced to stay together, even as tensions within the household escalate. That'll be pretty big. So there are many ways to open the episodes, but I went with like Megan's cooking the breakfast for her family, but her father is berating her for making small mistakes, and her mother is doing nothing. She just watches him do all that. She knows it's wrong, and she takes joy out of that. As she serves her family breakfast, Megan notices bruises on Elijah's arms, and that Joshua is not even daring to look his father in the eye. Sorry, I did a voice break then. But then there's hints of the apocalypse happening, like news in the background, people packing up, lots of police cars going past, the usual shtick. But the parents think nothing of it, while Megan is worrying a lot. It's like, that's not normal. After, the children are tasked with chores, while their father, Richard, encounters their neighbour, Mrs. Harper, who's telling them, "Hey, the outbreak is happening. You need to leave and get to safety." It gets into heated arguments where the father just slams the door in the face. Megan goes back to try and sneak into a room and call a friend of hers, but the father catches her and some awful stuff happens. I can't say what, but some awful stuff happens. Trying to keep this as PG as possible. On that night, the mother though notices that this is on the TV that everything is going down. It's all going down, and so the father decides to take initiative this time and build some fortifications. Megan wants to know. No, sorry, not Megan. Elijah wants to know why their parents hate them, but Megan lies to him by saying that they're scared. They don't actually hate them. And so the episode ends with Megan looking out the window, and she sees a zombie shuffling towards them. And now we will go on to episode 2, which is Only Love Can Hurt Like This. And I'm not just referencing the song by Paloma Faith. So in this episode, their synopsis is, as the infection spreads, the family flees their home. Tensions flow and the father's control and paranoia lead to dangerous decisions, forcing Megan to take small but defined actions to protect her brothers. So the episode will begin where their street is in chaos. Everything's falling apart. People are running. The army is trying to contain everything. Mrs. Harper begs Richard and Linda's the mother, to get their children and go with them. But Richard is like, we don't trust you. We think you're an enemy and such, something like that. So they decide to leave on their own, get in the car, and the father shouting orders at everyone. So as they try and get out, there's lots of traffic jams, there's lots of panic survivors. Richard notices that there are zombies coming towards them, so he decides to go through an alleyway. They have come out in another street, but no one is there. It's just abandoned. It's fully abandoned. As some zombies attack the car, but Megan manages to shove it off and get it away. So at night they find a temporary shelter in an abandoned gas station. Megan sneaks supplies into their brother's bags, despite her father saying that she's not allowed to do that. And that's where that episode ends. So we shall move on to episode 3, which is titled The Kindness of Strangers. And the synopsis of this episode is, the family encounters a group of survivors who offer help. While the children bond with the strangers, Richard's paranoia leads to conflict, exposing the group's darker side and forcing a dangerous escape. Excuse me while I take a sip of my Pepsi Max. That's good. The episode opens with the family running low on their supplies. They search an entire grocery store. It's like massive. There's not a single bit of food in there. It turns out there's a group already there, led by a woman named Cara. She welcomes them in and gives them food and shelter for the night. Elijah becomes friends with Janie, and Megan trusts Cara completely. No questions asked. but then there are some tensions that come up when their group Victor is in a fight with Richard and Linda. Cara stops them, but the father wants them to leave. Cara warns them that if they do go out there at night, they will be killed and they won't be able to save them. So Richard and Linda decide, you know what, we're just going to stick with them until we can find a way to escape. Unfortunately, Victor decides to raid some survivors nearby. Sorry, I can't speak. Victor plans to raid some nearby survivors, and Cara reveals that she did plan to steal the family's supplies before, but she now doesn't want to because she likes them very much. Then Victor starts accusing the family of stealing their things, where Richard and Victor now go on full fist fighting. But when Richard takes out a knife to threaten him, Cara breaks it up and banishes the family. But it's sad to leave Megan and her brothers behind with two of the worst parents ever. Then a few hours later, after lots of travelling, they look back and see the grocery store is now on fire. Yeah, and Megan is distraught, thinking that they're all dead. Episode 4 is called Eat. And the synopsis is, with supplies running out, Richard forces the family to scavenge a grocery store teeming with the infected. So yeah, another grocery store, but smaller. The risky mission pushes the siblings to their limits, deepening the divide between them and their parents. So the episode begins with the family arguing over food that is very, very low. Richard blames Megan for wasting everything, and he insists on raiding a grocery store nearby. Linda doesn't want to, as she's worried that they will all get killed. But he's like firmly believing that yes, we can go in there, we can steal their supplies. It's our right. When they approach the store, Richard orders Megan and her brothers to look for food, but they only find small sweets and already eaten sandwiches, spilled cans, bloodstains, and a kid's torn backpack. When they enter the store, they notice a zombie already there, reaching out to grab them, but Richard stupidly fires a gun off to kill it, and that attracts more zombies in. Richard and Linda selfishly run out as a shell falls onto Joshua, and the zombies are coming close. So Megan runs to get him, lifts up the shelf enough for Joshua to get out, but nearly gets bit until Megan lets go of the shelf and crushes the zombie's head. They escape with lots of wounds, and Megan starts full on shouting at Richard for endangering them all. But he sadly, unfortunately, hits her. Linda starts seeing that maybe Richard is not good with being the leader, but she sides with him because she doesn't want to be alone. And so the episode ends with Megan comforting her brothers and tending to Joshua's wounds. So episode 5 is called Worst Situations. And the synopsis is, after seeking refuge in an abandoned motel, the family encounters some old friends and new threats. A series of poor decisions leads to devastating consequences, forcing Megan to confront the cost of survival. It begins with the family arriving at the motel, and their car just barely runs out of gas as they park in. Inside, they meet Hector, who is very mistrusting of everyone, but he also seems to be hiding a secret. He gives them a room, and doesn't want them to be wandering off the property at night. As they explore the hotel, Megan finds Janie and they reunite. Elijah is so happy to see her, but Janie tells them that everyone died and she was the only one that escaped. After catching up on what has happened recently and what's going on in their lives, and the grocery store incident, the small one, a group of zombies crash into the the motel, and Hector saves Linda while they devour him. They rush out and find Hector's car, but unfortunately Janie gets grabbed by the zombies and is devoured, leaving Elijah devastated. They escape the motel, and Megan tries to lead the family to safety, but Richard doesn't want to leave any little supplies behind. So Megan fully screams at her father and mother, surprising them very much, but they think nothing of it and nothing after, and just leave. They think nothing of it and just leave her to watch the motel start to burn. Sorry, I'm not speaking. It's hard for me to read and talk. Yes, I'm reading it because I've typed it up. Episode 6 is called 11 Farron Road. Next, the family seeks refuge at an abandoned house on 11 Farron Road, only to discover some survivors thought to be dead. A tense reunion leads to an uneasy cooperation, but old wounds and mistrust culminate in a devastating betrayal. The episode opens with the family discovering a seemingly safe house, but they soon realise that it's been occupied by another group. After being kidnapped, they realise that the group is actually Cara and Victor and some others. She allows them to stay, but is very concerned about Richard and Linda. Megan informs Cara what happened with Janie, and Cara is now colder and more pragmatic than the others, since they lost a lot of people in that fire. Victor still wants to confront Richard and wants to prove that he is not a good man, that he deserves to be dead. Cara reveals that they did raid another survivor settlement, but Richard, for the first time, decides we are not raiding anyone because it's not worth it dying over, and accuses Cara of being reckless and stupid. Megan wants to side with Cara and find another settlement to rob, and that deepens a rift between her and Richard. One night, the family wants to leave and find their own way out. But before they escape, Cara confronts them and begs them to stay, but Victor stabs her in the back. He wants to take over and wants to save the children by killing their parents. But Kara suddenly gets up, sets off a bomb she planted, and stabs Victor in the Achilles. I think that's what they're called, the Achilles, and makes him drop to the floor, hurting. She holds on to him as the family escapes and the zombies devour them all. Episode 7 is called The Adventures of Briggs. And the synopsis of this episode is: the family meets Briggs, a rugged and enigmatic survivor who offers them a brief reprieve from their struggles. Through Briggs' stories and actions, Megan gains a deeper understanding of loss and resilience. Excuse me while I take a drink. Damn, that's good. So the episode opens with the family trekking through under the dense forest. But they barely have any food left and they are exhausted. And suddenly they encounter Briggs, who gives them a whole box of food and offers them a room in his cabin for the night. But Richard doesn't want to, but Megan convinces them that he's offering them food and they need it. So around a campfire, Briggs shares stories about his past as an engineer for science, and how he lost his family during the early stages of the outbreak. As he tells the stories, Megan connects with him deeply, and she notices that Briggs is always staring at Joshua and Elijah, but not in a creepy way, in like a loving way, protecting way. During a supply run, Briggs saves Linda from a zombie, and realizes it's someone he knew before. Megan catches up to him and comforts him. When dawn comes, Briggs decides to part way on his own and warns the family that there's a dangerous group nearby that may want to harm them. He gives Megan a map of the entire world and tells her that she may need that one day, Episode 8 is called Vocal Boy. And the synopsis is: while searching for supplies, the family encounters a peculiar boy who communicates through singing. His presence provides a strange sense of comfort and danger, leading to a climactic confrontation with the scavenger group. Pardon me, sorry. The episode begins with the family again low on supplies. They keep running out of supplies, They come across an abandoned church where they can hear someone singing. They find someone called the Vocal Boy, a young teenager who speaks in place of singing, who sings in the place of speaking. He's singing about a warning that something's going to come. Elijah is quickly bonds with the boy, and Megan starts to see the church as their new home, but Richard sees him as a liability and wants to leave him behind. But suddenly they are ambushed by a scavenger group, led by, I just called him the scavenger leader. I couldn't think of a name for him. And he accuses them of stealing their stuff. As they're being threatened with violence and murder, the boy singing brought zombies, but unfortunately, the boy himself is devoured. But luckily, the scoundrel group is as well, as the family escape and lock them in. And the season 1 finale, episode 9, is called Freedom. Briggs returns in this episode. The family's journey reached a critical juncture as they confront not only the undead, but their own toxic dynamics. The episode opens with everyone in a desolate town, and they surprisingly encounter Briggs. Linda has Briggs tied up in some ropes as Richard blames Megan for everything that's happened to them. Linda wants to speak out, but she knows that if she does, she will get a beating of a lifetime from him. Briggs proposes a plan to use a car to draw a horde away, so then they can escape. They don't fully agree, but Richard has a plan. It's not a good plan either. The plan unfolds, but lots of things go wrong. Much more because of Richard's recklessness. The horde comes over, and it almost bites Joshua, but Briggs pushes him out of the way. But he unfortunately gets devoured himself. This is the breaking point that snaps Megan. She traps both her parents in the car, takes out the locks the car in. So I hope you know what I mean. Taking out, those things that go down, that you have to push down and pull up. You know what I mean. And she plants, and she opens the fuel door, and pours a whole jerry can of gasoline leading out to the road. She lights a match, and the parents are begging for them to not do it. But before she drops it, Megan has a speech saying, "You told me that we needed to prepare to fight the monsters, and they did, but I never realized we were already with the monsters," or something like that. Drops the match. The fire leads to the car explodes, and the parents are finally dead. And they manage, and the season 1 ends with them leading away from the burning car. So now we're going to move on to season 2, which will have 12 episodes. So the plot of this season goes: with the siblings now on their own, they must survive the harsh realities of the apocalypse while trying to make new allies. But Megan's trust in people is tested with every encounter. So we will have a new main character for this one called Rita. So let's get into the episode. So episode 1, funny enough, is called Rita. And the synopsis for this one is: the siblings' fragile unity is tested as they encounter Rita, a former firefighter with survival skills that may be their saving grace. However, Megan's mistrust of strangers threatens to drive a wedge between the group as they decide whether to trust Rita. So it begins with the siblings wandering through an urban landscape looking for supplies, like you do. But Joshua and Elijah are extremely hungry. but Megan has so much adrenaline. She's like, we can do this. They unknowingly get ambushed by bandits, but luckily they are saved by Rita, who kills them quietly. After taking out the bandits, Rita offers them help, but Megan doesn't think she'll help them. She shows them her skills, where she quickly wins over Joshua and Elijah. Megan only agrees to keep Rita with them because the boys trust her. So if they trust her, she trusts her, sort of. In a flashback, we see Rita on day one, where unfortunately, when she came back home, she saw her entire home destroyed, and she saw her wife as a zombie, but she didn't put her down. As they set up camp for the night, Joshua and Elijah bond quickly with Rita, but they don't mention their parents at all. But Megan still doesn't trust Rita because, the influence of her parents. After a long night, one of the bandits turned out to be alive. That was their leader, but Rita immediately hears him and sets him on fire. And that's the end of episode 1. So now we're going to episode 2 of season 2, which is called Black Rose. While scavenging, the group encounters a struggling settlement, only to find themselves targeted by a cunning thief who aims to take everything they've worked for. Excuse me a moment while I drink some Pepsi Max. God, I'm addicted to that. I'm more addicted to the cherry flavour. Anyways, the group finds a small settlement that are in the woods. It appears to be abandoned at first, but then they find settlers who warn them of a thief that will steal everything they have, and if they don't give them what he wants, they will kill him. Classic villain stuff. As Megan, Rita, Joshua, and Elijah are getting used to the settlement, they finally meet the thief, who captures Elijah and takes their stuff. Rita has a plan to outsmart the thief. I don't know the thief's name. I never gave him a name. If you want to suggest any names of villains that I don't mention the name for, let me know. They outsmart the thief by setting a controlled fire to attract him. As the thief is approaching them, Joshua saves Elijah, showing him stepping up to be a big brother this time. And Megan injures the thief, but Rita takes him out with an axe. Afterwards, the settlers thank them so much for killing the thief and give them food and medicine supplies for their help. Megan isn't gonna say thank you for Rita for help. Next is episode 3 of season 2, which is called Moon and Stars. As the group seeks shelter in an abandoned observatory, Megan's increasingly cold and ruthless decisions reveal a dark side, pushing Rita to intervene and set a course to help her heal before it's too late. Well, she tries to. The group stumbles upon an old observatory. While looking for supplies, Megan discovers a bloodstained journal that belonged to a previous survivor. She later sees that survivor hanging from a giant fake telescope. I think that's what they're called, telescopes. The entries detail paranoia and cruelty, which angers her a little bit because it reminds her of Richard, but a little bit of her as well. As they look through, they find a malnourished survivor who's begging them for help, but Megan doesn't want to help. Rita tells her they should give him some sort of food, but Megan tells them no, and they leave the man to starve and dehydrate. And Joshua and Elijah witness that, and are very disturbed by it, but they decide to stick with Megan still. Afterwards, Rita confronts Megan about her behavior and asking why she's doing what she's doing, and Megan plainly says trust. The observatory reveals evidence of a past massacre that happened. They discovered a haunted survivor, who was a woman who lost her grip on reality, and she keeps muttering "moonlit monsters." And Megan sort of sees herself in her for like the future. All of a sudden, zombies attack, and Megan unknowingly kills the zombies and the haunted survivor. This horrifies Rita, and it strains her relationship a little bit with Elijah and Joshua. They escape, but Rita talks with Joshua and Elijah about their sister, but they still don't want to talk about their parents. Now we're on to episode 4 of season 2, called Touch. And this is where we have our central antagonist for the season, finally. His name is Carter. The siblings and Rita cross paths with the ruthless group known as the Wolves, led by Carter. As tensions escalate, the group must navigate a delicate balance between survival and the looming threat of a powerful new enemy. The episode starts with the group finding an abandoned village where there's signs of a massacre. There's bodies everywhere. There's houses that have been torn down. There's blood on some of the stuff, And while they were scavenging, they find a man called Carter and 2 of his subordinates. Carter claims that they own the village and offer them a deal. They can hand them half of their stuff or they will be dead. Megan, who already distrusts them, warns Carter that they need to leave or they will face her brutality. Rita, on the other hand, though, wants to reason with Carter, offering a small share to avoid a fight. Carter decides to agree, reluctantly agrees, but he promises that he will return with a bigger army. At night, as the 4 stay in the village, they are ambushed by the wolves, who try and take everything. But Megan and Rita work together to fight off the attackers. And they realise that this group is more organised and calculated than the previous ones. Everyone escapes the village, and Rita worries that the wolves will come back again and they won't stop. And the episode ends with Carter watching the group from a tree. Next episode is episode 5 of season 2, called Temporary. And the group encounters Ellis, a charismatic and resourceful survivor who reminds Joshua of Briggs. While Joshua quickly bonds with him, Megan and Rita remain wary, unsure if Ellis's presence is a blessing or a temporary distraction from the wolves' growing threat. The episode begins with the group in a forest clearing when they are approached by Ellis and his companion. Ellis gives them some entertainment, as he was an actor in the past. He seems to know something about the wolves, and he claimed that he escaped from one of them. Joshua is very drawn to Ellis and sees a little bit of Briggs in him. So they bond over their love of music, and Ellis reveals that he wasn't really much of an actor back in the past. He was only in commercials. Megan is still very distrustful of Ellis and his companion. She asks him about his escape from the wolves, expecting that he might be working for them. But Ellis genuinely tells her that he's not working for any of them, that he is trying to help them. Sadly, during looking for berries, Ellis's companion is bitten by a zombie, and the groups debate whether they should put him down or leave him behind. Ultimately, Ellis makes the heartbreaking decision to end his companion's suffering. During a brief skirmish with a small group of wolves, Ellis proves that he was telling the truth by taking Elijah out of harm's way. Megan tells Ellis that he must earn trust over everything. As the group moves on, Joshua tells Ellis that he reminds him of his friend Briggs. And Rita notices that Megan is sharpening her knife more frequently. And on to episode 6 of season 2, called The New Killer. As the wolves close in on the group, Megan takes increasingly brutal measures to ensure her brother's safety. Her actions, eerily reminiscent of their father's cruelty, force Joshua and Elijah to confront their growing fear of her. So it opens with the group camping in an abandoned warehouse after being spotted by wolf scouts. Megan takes charge to make traps to capture everyone. Carter appears outside the warehouse with several wolves and offers them a deal to surrender Megan in exchange for peace. Megan rejects the offer, and a fight breaks out. Megan lures a wolf into a trap, killing him brutally. But after he's dead, she's calm about everything, and that scares Joshua and Elijah, who they secretly relate to her like their father. Rita tries to stop her stop Megan's violence escalating, but she snaps and and thinks Rita would be better off with the wolves than them. Carter breaks into the warehouse and captures Joshua, intending to use him as leverage. Megan tries to follow Carter, but before losing him, she stabs him in the arm. They regroup after the wolves retreat, and Rita helps Elijah's wounds. Megan finds Joshua, who was dropped while these wolves were escaping. She brings him back, but he confronts her about acting a little bit like their father, and Megan is disturbed by that and storms off. The episode ends with Carter vowing revenge on Megan for killing most of his men and damaging himself, while Megan watches over her brother sleeping. The next episode is episode 7 of season 2, called Wrath. Let me just get a drink. I love that. Joshua and Elijah take charge of the group's survival as tensions between Megan and Rita reach a boiling point. Their leadership is tested when the wolves reappear, forcing them to make a life or death decision without their sister's guidance. The episode opens with Megan and Rita arguing over what they should do next. Megan insists on taking a fight to the wolves, but Rita wants them to find a safe place for now. But they immediately stop when they agree to let Joshua and Elijah decide what's best. They decide to find a place for them to stay, and they find a derelict gas station and explore a derelict gas station for supplies. They share a rare moment of peace, and Joshua thinks back to Briggs and wonders if they can ever find someone like him again. Besides Ellis. But Elijah says that they've already got enough people they trust. Suddenly, some wolf scouts ambush the brothers, and they fight for their lives. Joshua leads Elijah to a wreckage, and sets a plan to kill these scouts. Elijah pretends to be hurt, and the wolves go to get him, but Joshua pushes down a huge heavy box, crushing their heads. Not fully crushing it, but damage it enough to kill them. Back at the camp, though, Megan and Rita argue a lot when they learn about the ambush. She blames Rita for not taking care of them, while Rita tells Megan she's expecting too much of the boys. The clash stops when Joshua and Elijah reveal that, hey, we killed them. Carter makes a brief appearance, telling the scouts to retreat, but warn the group that they've only delayed the inevitable. And Joshua thinks they can outsmart the wolves without Megan's help. Megan watches her brothers while she's figuring out what to do, while Rita vows to help the siblings, even if it opposes Megan. Next we have episode 8 of season 2, which is called What They Died For. As the group takes a rare moment to reflect on their past and plan for the future, Joshua and Elijah's growing bond with Rita stirs Megan's distrust. Megan begins to push Rita away, convinced she'll betray them just like their mother Linda. Meanwhile, Carter and the wolves are closing in. The episode begins with the group scavenging an old farmstead. Joshua and Elijah joke with Rita a lot, and Elijah and Joshua open up to Rita about their family. Megan has a small flashback to when Linda, the mother, wasn't mean at all. Wasn't cold-hearted and wasn't keeping herself at distance. She sided with Megan once, but unfortunately that led her to being brutally attacked by Richard. And she sees that in Rita, sort of, but it's completely misguided. Rita teaches Joshua and Elijah how to forage and set traps and build their own shelters. And they start to see her as another mother. Carter and the wolves start strategizing their next attack on the group and plans to break them by breaking Megan. Megan confronts Rita, accusing her of trying to replace their parents, only to try to abandon them later. Rita tells them that's not what she's doing, but she's only trying to help. As they're arguing, the wolves attack the farm. They fight off the wolves, but this causes Megan to lose a little bit of faith in Rita, a little bit more than usual. Rita saves Elijah from an attacker, and Joshua believes that this is Rita in showing her full loyalty. They escape the attack and hide in an abandoned house. Joshua and Elijah call Rita family, which hurts Megan a lot. And she sharpens a knife again, and in the reflection is Rita. Episode 9 of Season 2 is called Broken. Tensions reach a breaking point as Megan's paranoia and anger causes a rift with her brothers. In a moment of rage, she nearly harms someone she loves very much, leaving them vulnerable for an ambush from the wolves. The episode begins with the group on the move, and Megan's frustration with Joshua and Elijah grows as Rita tells them lots of funny stories about her past. Megan starts yelling at Rita for trying to take over as leader, but accidentally she grabs Joshua's arm and breaks his wrist. She lets go immediately as Rita resets Joshua's wrist, and now the brothers are fully scared of Megan now, no longer seeing her as the big protective sister. Distracted by the conflict, the group is ambushed again by Carter, who captures Joshua and Elijah, leaving Megan and Rita behind. After the ambush, Rita wants to save the brothers, but Megan doesn't want to go and save them anymore. As they see her now as an enemy rather than an ally. Meanwhile, Joshua and Elijah are trapped in cages, and tells them they're going to go into a world of torture. And the episode ends with Megan looking at herself in broken shards of glass while Rita watches her from afar. Next we'll go into episode 10 of season 2 called Often, and this will be the only episode where there are only 2 characters. Save for the zombies, they don't really matter. Megan and Rita are left alone as they prepare to rescue Joshua and Elijah. Rita uses their time together to help Megan confront her past and realise that not everyone is like her abusive parents. Megan and Rita walk through a deserted forest, scavenging supplies and preparing for the rescue mission. Megan is very distant from Rita, still thinking that she's the one to blame for the capture of her brothers. Rita asks Megan why she's so harsh to everyone, and Megan accuses Rita of trying to take over their plan, but Rita tells her that that's not her intention at all, that it's never been her intention. She sits Megan down and tells her that she's not going to talk anymore, that she's going to talk, and tells her that she wasn't always faithful to her wife, and she didn't lose, and she lost everything because she was selfish. She admits that she was hurt, but she still believes in good people. As they shelter in an abandoned cabin, like you do, Megan starts opening up of what her parents did, which is an emotional moment, and reveals that she doesn't trust people because her parents because of what her parents did, and sees that in everyone. Rita finds a music box and gives it to Megan, and tells her that she should give it to someone that she trusts. Some zombies interrupt their conversation, but this time they work really well together, killing them all. As they rest by a campfire, Megan thanks Rita for everything that she's done, and promises her that they're going to do better next time. Now on to episode 11 of season 2, called Mercy. I'm begging you for mercy. It's not Bercy, just Mercy. Megan and Rita launch a daring rescue mission to save Joshua and Elijah from the wolves. The siblings reunite amidst a brutal battle, culminating in the end of a long reign. The episode begins with Megan and Rita surveying the wolves' base, a fortified factory surrounded by the undead. You know, like Negan in the Sanctuary. They take out lots of sentries while coming up with a plan. Joshua and Elijah are still in captive. There's lots of bruises on them. They're in ragged clothes. They're chained up with their arms in the air. Carter continues breaking them, but they spot Megan sparking some hope. Megan and Rita infiltrate the base under the cover of night, using trapped explosive and clever tactics to take out several members of the wolves. Megan rushes in as Rita defends them all. She rescues Joshua and Elijah and promises that she's never going to treat them like that again, and apologizes for breaking Joshua's arm. As they get out, Carter confronts Megan, and they begin a large, drawn-out fight, which ends with Rita appearing behind Carter and slitting his throat. And with Carter dead, the remaining will scatter or they are killed by the zombies. Rita leads them away to safety, and the episode ends with Megan carrying Carter's knife as a souvenir. And now we're on to episode 12 of season 2, the season finale, called Follow the Red Shoes. The group stumbles upon an idyllic community that feels like a ghost of their old neighborhood. As they settle in, old wounds resurface and trust is tested. The episode begins with the group weary and battered from the fights, while the brothers are hurt by the torture they received. They suddenly starts following red footprints on the road that lead them to a gated community with well-maintained houses and gardens that surprise them a lot. The community members welcome them and give them food, medical care, and a warm bed to sleep in. Megan doesn't immediately trust them, but trusts them enough to keep them okay. But as they stay, residents seem eager to keep the group out inside the gates rather than outside. Rita wants to reassure Megan that everything is okay, but Megan isn't fully convinced. During a night, a horde of zombies breach the community, taking down the gates that held the group in for so long. Lots of residents are devoured, and Megan, Elijah, Joshua, and Rita are fighting the zombies off. Megan suddenly starts to become overwhelmed by the zombies and nearly gets bit, but Rita pulls the zombie away, but gets bit on the hand. In this zombie show, no one knows to take off any limbs, so don't blame them for that. She tells them to take care of the boys before tackling down some zombies and distracting them as they devour her. They escape the chaos and disappear into a forest. Megan separates herself from the siblings, mourning the loss of Rita, who she then considered to be her real mother. They move away from the community as it burns down. And that is the end of season 2. And now we're moving on to the final season, season 3. We are now on the final season, season 3, with 11 episodes. With the goal of finding a new home, Megan and her brothers find paradise. All of a sudden, the leader of the community sees them as a threat and plans to kick them out or kill them. We'll start off with episode 1, and we have the last two main characters called Frederick, Doreen, and the last antagonist, Everett. Well, he's not the last antagonist, but he's the last central antagonist. Episode 1 is called Forget You. Woohoo! I apologise for my terrible singing. Siblings arrive at a seemingly perfect community led by the charismatic Everett. They meet new allies, Frederick and Doreen, but tensions rise as Megan becomes suspicious of the leader's true intentions. Megan, Joshua, and Elijah stumble upon the gates is of another thriving community that's not well maintained as the previous one. They are welcomed by Everett, the charming and seemingly benevolent leader, who offers them food, shelter, and safety. At first glance, the community seems like a paradise, organized, well guarded, and self-sustaining. While Joshua and Elijah are optimistic about this new life, Megan is immediately on edge, unable to trust the apparent generosity. Megan meets Frederick, a quiet and skilled carpenter who is skeptical of Everett, and Doreen, a resourceful herbalist who has been living in the community for months. Both caution Megan about trusting Everett too easily, but they are careful to not openly defy him because he is a little bit ruthless at times. As they adjust to their new home, Megan notices unsettling details such as the strict rules enforced by heavily armed guards and whispers of people disappearing in the night. Everett invites the siblings over for dinner and wants to know them a bit better. While having dinner, Everett reveals his authoritarian tendencies, masked by his charismatic demeanor. Megan wants to question things, but she decides to not do it either. The episode ends with Megan overhearing Everett instructing his guards to keep an eye on them. Episode 2 of the final season is called I'm the Crown. Siblings settle into the life of the community, enjoying rare moments of peace. However, tension arises as Everett subtly asserts his control, leaving Megan and her brothers questioning their safety. The episode begins with the siblings slowly adjusting to life in the community. For the first time in a while, they experience relative peace. Joshua and Elijah participate in a fishing activity by the river. Megan helps Frederick repair a damaged fence, and Doreen introduces the group to her herb garden. Despite the whole tranquil atmosphere, cracks begin to show. Megan notices Everett's quiet influence over the residents. Every decision, no matter how minor they are, runs through him. He's in control of their lives. At a community meeting, Everett addresses concerns about dwindling resources with charm and poise, but Megan picks up on his veiled warnings about loyalty and obedience. He's threatening the thief to come forward and face death. Everett privately invites Megan to join his inner council, presenting it as an opportunity for her to contribute to the community's future. She declines, suspicious of his true intentions. Joshua and Elijah, unaware of the tension, expresses gratitude for the security they now feel, frustrating Megan, who struggles to convince them of her concerns. The episode ends with Megan and Everett at another dinner, and reminds her that trust is everything in their community and hates backstabbers. Episode 3 of the season finale is called The Bog. As the siblings spend more time with Frederick and Doreen, Joshua and Elijah begin to see them as surrogate parents. This development terrifies Megan, who feels her position in the family slipping away. The episode begins with Frederick and Doreen helping Joshua and Elijah learn practical survival skills. Joshua practices woodworking with Frederick, while Elijah explores the herb garden with Doreen. Both boys are visibly happier and more at ease than they've been in months, leaning on Frederick and Doreen for guidance. Megan, observing them all from a distance, grows increasingly uneasy. A conversation between her and Frederick about the boys' progress turns awkward as he casually remarks, "They're good kids, you've done well by them," making Megan feel as though her brothers are being taken from her. The tipping point comes during a quiet moment in their shared living space. Joshua and Elijah, with childlike earnestness, beg Megan to let Frank and Doreen be their new parents. They argue that the two are kind, but Megan doesn't feel like having new parents at the moment. She's scared of having parents. She walks away feeling betrayed. Doreen finds Megan sitting alone in a bog, and she believes that she's failing them as a protector, and that her brothers don't need them. Doreen reassures her that letting them help doesn't diminish her role at all. It just makes it stronger. The episode ends with Megan watching Joshua and Elijah laugh with Frederick and Doreen, and she smiles for the first time ever. Episode 4 of the final season is called Behind Closed Doors. A mysterious group scouts the community, their intentions unclear. Megan's instincts lead her to investigate, but the danger forces her and her brothers to set aside their differences and work together to protect each other. The episode begins with the community enjoying a rare celebration, residents sharing food and stories over a central bonfire. Megan remains on edge while spotting some strangers lurking out the fence. She alerts Everett, but he tells him that the guards will handle everything. Later that night, Megan convinces Joshua and Elijah to help her investigate the area near the bog. There, they find clear evidence that there's a group watching them with footprints, a map of the entire community, and markings on the fence that suggest someone is always there. Megan tries to warn Everett again, but he tells Megan to stop stirring up fear among the residents. Things escalate when the scouts from the group sneaks into the community and is caught by Frederick and Doreen while tampering with supplies. The scout claims their group is simply looking for resources and threatens retaliation if the community doesn't cooperate. Faced with the threat, Megan and her brothers band together to devise a plan to protect their group. Joshua uses his observational skills to track the scouts' movements. Elijah helps fortify weak points in the fence, and Megan takes charge of organising the community's defence. Frederick and Doreen assist, seeing Megan as a potential new leader rather than Everett. And the episode ends with a standoff as the group leaves a warning on the community. Next, we have episode 5 of the final season, A Short Rest. In the aftermath of the recent threats, the community takes a moment to recuperate. However, the peace is shattered when a sudden attack leads to the loss of many residents, reminding everyone of the present danger. The episode begins with the community trying to relax after fortifying their defences. Megan and Frederick patrol the perimeter while Joshua and Elijah bond over repairing tools. Doreen works alongside Eliza and Michael preparing supplies. Eliza and Michael are residents. Tensions arise as Everett insists on maintaining normalcy despite the looming threat. This frustrates Megan, who argues for stricter measures. This disagreement escalates until Everett agrees to increase the patrols. He doesn't like being told what to do. As night falls, a small group of scouts from the group infiltrate the community, targeting the supply stores. The attack is swift, resulting in a fight that spreads to one of the storage buildings. In the commotion, Eliza and Michael try to save the supplies, but are killed. Megan and Frederick manage to fend off the attackers while helping the community to guards, but losses are deeply felt. There is a funeral for Eliza and Michael, with Joshua and Elijah expressing guilt over not being able to help, but Megan tells them that they couldn't have done anything. The episode ends with Megan watching the forest from the fence. Episode 6 of the final season is called Little Miss Snoopy. The lingering threat of the group reaches its climax as Megan leads a mission to eliminate them once and for all. However, Everett's actions during the conflict reveal his darker intentions. The episode begins with Megan uncovering evidence of the group's location just outside the community. Convinced they need to act decisively, she organizes a strike team, including Frederick and several guards. Despite Everett's protest, she insists this is the only way to ensure the group's safety. The community's safety, sorry. As the strike team heads out, tensions rise between Megan and Everett. Frederick supports Megan, further driving a wedge between her and Everett. This is the part where Everett now sees Megan as an enemy. Joshua and Elijah stay behind, worried about their sister, but trusting her instincts. They raid the group's camp. Megan and his team ambush the group and take out the leader and the remaining members. However, during it, Megan notices Everett trying to negotiate with the group. They return victorious, but Megan confronts Everett of him. He denies the accusation and blames Megan for the unnecessary loss during the raid. The episode ends with Everett standing before the community, with Megan and her mothers symbolically on the other side. Or basically, the group is gone. That group is gone. You're not going to see them anymore. Excuse me while I take a drink. Woo. Episode 7 of the final season. It's called All Who We've Lost. In a rare moment of peace, the siblings reflect on the good times they've shared with those they've lost. However, the community is thrown into chaos when Everett frames the siblings for a shocking murder. The episode begins with Megan, Joshua, and Elijah gathering around a campfire, sharing memories of people they've lost: Briggs, Rita, and even their parents. Back when they weren't arseholes. Oh, sorry, shouldn't have said that. I'll try and bleep that out if I can. Frederick and Doreen join in, adding their own stories. This moment of vulnerability strengthens their bond. Meanwhile, Everett, sensing his control is slipping, devises a plan to frame the siblings for a heinous act. He manipulates a community member in creating a confrontation with Megan. When this member is later found dead, all evidence points to them. The community quickly turns on Megan and her brothers, with Everett fanning the flames. Megan insists she's innocent, but Everett's influence makes it impossible to convince anyone otherwise. Frederick and Doreen stand by the siblings while investigating the truth. The episode ends with the siblings being confined under house arrest as the community debates their fate. Episode 8 of the final season is called Tell Me If You've Heard This One Before. As tensions reach a boiling point, Doreen takes a stand to defend Megan and her brothers against the growing mistrust of the community. However, a zombie horde spotted in the distance threatens to shatter the fragile peace. The episode begins with Megan and her brothers under house arrest, facing hostility from the community. Doreen, believing they are innocent, rallies a small group of allies to support them, despite Everett's influence. While this internal strife plays out, a lookout spots a massive zombie horde miles away, heading towards the community. Panic spreads as Everett uses the threat to further paint the siblings as liabilities, claiming they brought bad luck and discord. Doreen, however, refuses to back down. She confronts Everett during a tense community meeting, accusing him of manipulating events to consolidate power. While her accusations begin to sway a few residents, most remain hesitant to challenge Everett openly. As the horde approaches, Doreen convinces the community to focus on preparing defences rather than casting blame. She enlists Megan, Frederick, and Joshua to lead efforts to fortify the community. Everett reluctantly agrees, but ensures they will be closely watched. The episode ends with the horde just hours away and everyone planning to take them on. Sorry. Episode 9 of the final season is called Mate. With the zombie horde nearing, the community scrambles to come up with plans to divert it. The episode begins with scouts returning, reporting the horde's size and trajectory. Panic sets in as the zombies are now just hours away. Everett capitalizes on the chaos to further undermine Megan and her brothers. Frederick suggests using loud vehicles to lure sections of the horde away, while Doreen argues for a coordinated attack using barricade and fire traps. Their disagreement escalates into a heated exchange, with Frederick accusing Doreen of prioritizing the siblings' safety over the community. Doreen counters, accusing Frederick of focusing too much on brute force tactics that might cost lives. The community attempts both strategies. A convoy of vehicles tries to lead the horde away, but the zombies quickly regroup. Meanwhile, a poorly executed fire trap backfires, damaging some of the community's fortifications. The situation becomes dire, with the horde now on their doorstep. Realizing the urgency, Frederick and Doreen set aside their differences and work together to rally the community. Megan takes up the leader position and organizes a defense line. Everett reluctantly joins the fights, though his motives remain suspect. The episode ends with the horde breaching the defences. Episode 10 of the final season is titled 100 Days Ago. The episode rewinds to the first day of the apocalypse, showing how Frederick, Doreen, and Everett experienced the outbreak and adapted to the chaos. The episode begins with a flashback of the bustling city, with Frederick working in a hospital as a paramedic. The chaos erupts with injured patients beginning turning into zombies, forcing Frederick to make a split-second decision to save as many people as possible. He is ultimately forced to flee the city alone. Doreen is introduced in a rural setting, spending her days caring for her elderly mother. When the outbreak spreads to their town, Doreen desperately fights to protect her mother and a small group of neighbours. Despite her efforts, she loses her mother early on, and that's a defining moment for her. Everett's backstory unfolds in a suburban neighbourhood. He is initially portrayed as a charming yet manipulative man who quickly takes control of his local group. Using fear tactics, Everett consolidates power but shows little compassion for those who challenge his authority. Frederick and Doreen's paths cross after a brutal attack from marauders, and Everett's group eventually finds them, and they come together to create the community they are in now. The episode ends in the present with Megan and her brothers preparing as zombies break into the community. And now we are on the finale, the ultimate finale, episode 11, the last episode of the entire thing, Family. The Horde breaches the community's defenses, throwing everyone into the fight of their lives. The episode opens with the community in disarray as the zombie horde tears through barricades. Megan, Joshua, and Elijah scramble to help survivors while trying to stay alive themselves. Doreen and Frederick coordinate efforts to lead groups to safety, showcasing their leadership. Amid the chaos, Everett corners Megan in an isolated area, blaming her for the community's collapse. In a tense confrontation, he attacks her, but Elijah stops him, distracting him long enough for Megan to get away, for Megan to kill him. Those fences that look like they have a spear poking through them. She uses that on him. Not saying where, but she uses that. During the scuffle, Elijah is bitten, but Megan stops it. After clearing out the horde, Elijah dies, unfortunately. But before he did, he reassures Megan that she did enough to protect him. Frederick and Doreen bury Elijah, and Megan says a few words for him. A few months later, Frederick and Doreen are now the leaders of the community, while Megan is the sheriff. The whole thing ends with Megan, Joshua, Frederick, and Doreen, now a full family, watching the community as it's being rebuilt. So I hope you got all of that. I'll try and write it up, and I don't know, maybe I'll do a PowerPoint of everything that's been written if you didn't catch everything. But I hope you got the gist of what it's all about. It's just an idea that I got in my head. So I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you all have a great Christmas coming up. I'm now going to take a break until January, and then we will start off with a whole week of videos from every channel. Game Talker, Food Talker, and such, you know. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.